All right, time for another Patreon question. This one comes from John Rochelle. He asks, I know you have a massive game collection. I wanted to know what you do to protect your games from theft, fire, and natural disasters. So this is a really good question because I do get asked this an awful lot because, as you can see, I do have a fairly large game collection. I have a little over 7,000 games and somewhere around 50 or 55 different systems. And, you know, it's definitely a concern. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the solutions that I use, talk about the technology as well as the insurance. But before I do that, I do want to do a disclaimer because I don't want somebody being very upset if they follow my advice and something bad were to happen to them. So, you know, watch this video for informational purposes only, but this solution is my own. First up, let's talk about home security cameras and home security systems. Now, in my game room, I actually employ two different systems, and the reason why I do that is because if one fails, the other one can take over, and they use slightly different technology. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to tell you the exact brand and model that I use because that would not be smart. I don't want people to know exactly what I have in my game room here, but I'll tell you the thinking behind it. The thing that I really was impressed with some of the new technology that's out there today is that those home security cameras can follow your smartphone. And they do it in really interesting ways because basically when I'm down here in the game room, it knows my geographic location at all times. And so the security level actually is less. I don't need it necessarily to monitor every single thing while I'm home. However, the moment that I get in my car or I step out into the street, go to a cafe, go on vacation, the security level automatically rises to the maximum. And it does some really cool stuff. You would expect it to capture all the footage in HD, which it does. It also has night vision, which is nice, so I don't have to leave the lights on. It works at night. It's also got motion sensors on there. It also has some really interesting features too, because it also measures the air quality. That's kind of neat because if there was ever a fire down here, well, my phone would get an alert. Pretty awesome, right? Also the same thing for humidity levels. So for instance, I'm in a basement. If the water main broke and it started to flood down here, the humidity levels would rise and it would also detect that. Another thing that it does is that it's able to capture video, again, in HD and store it on the web and also locally. So it's a pretty full-featured security system and I'm pretty happy with it. The next thing I want to mention is get to know your neighbors. I am surprised how many people don't follow this advice. In our neighborhood, I know when our neighbor has gone on vacation. As a matter of fact, this week my neighbor is on vacation and I'm watering her flowers. But more importantly, if someone was to haul out her television or all of her stuff, I would call the cops. I mean, I know her schedule and that's very handy. Also, if a FedEx truck were to show up and drop off a package, again, I know she's not there, so I can run across the street, grab the package, text her, let her know that I have it. And you know, it's part of peace of mind. And again, it's something that I think some people kind of forget about. The next thing I want to mention are pets, specifically dogs. Now, dogs have been our companions and our protectors for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they are perfect for home defense. I mean, I pity the person who tries to crawl in one of our windows in the middle of the night because we used to have one dog, now we have two, and they are on high alert. There would be chaos if that were to happen. And so something to consider. I mean, pets are awesome anyways, and having them watching your back is awesome. Now let's talk insurance. Now I'm a big fan of insurance and the peace of mind that it can bring you. See, I've put a lot of time, energy, and money into building my game collection here. And I like the idea that if something were to happen to it, I could replace most, if not all of it. Now, the thing about insurance is that it can be kind of complicated and vary depending on the country that you live in, maybe even the state that you live in, and also the company that you work with. Me personally, I know our insurance agent, and I've talked to him for quite a while on the phone, so that he understands exactly what I'm trying to do here, what the price I'm looking for, and also the deductible. These are all very important things to consider. But it goes beyond that. For instance, with the company that I use, they offer two different types of insurance. There's personal item insurance, and then there's the insurance that you get for all of your personal possessions within your house. Now, originally when I talked to him, I was like, well, let's just get a bid for the actual game room itself, which basically would be the personal item. That's for people who, like, let's say you have an antique gun collection, or maybe you just have family jewelry that you want a specific policy for. My agent told me that it's really common for people who travel and they take a lot of really expensive tech with them, like say an expensive laptop or maybe a smartphone, cameras and microphones. They'll get specific policies for that. That way, if something were to happen to it, it doesn't get applied to their entire home policy. So I originally reached out and I was like, okay, let's do that for my game room. However, it's really funny, they don't support a game collection. And at first I was like, what? I mean, game collecting is a thing. People collect stamps and all sorts of little figurines and stuff, but for whatever reason, they don't cover a game room, in its separate policy. I got to thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe that makes sense because there's probably not a lot of people out there that have really large game collections that they get a specific policy for. So what we ended up going with is a total personal property package of the entire inside of my home. So what that means is that, yes, my game room is covered, my guitars are covered, my vinyl, my furniture, my silverware, the beds, everything that's not nailed down is covered by our policy. And more specifically also too, the amount is to cover the game room. So basically, you just work in the price and you come up with something that you can live with. And again, overall, actually, it's not that expensive. What do you do if you have to file a claim? What if there's a fire, a flood, or heaven forbid that somebody breaks in and steals a bunch of your games? Well, I talked to my agent for quite a while about this, and cataloging your software and your games is the very minimum step. And I actually did a video on all the different solutions out there. Me personally, I actually use a program called Delicious Library. Now it's Mac only, but I love it because it works with barcodes. You basically can scan the barcode and it just inputs it into the software. It outputs it to a Dropbox and you can view it on your phone no matter where you are. It's a great solution, but it's not the only one. So I'll link to that video where I talk about that stuff in the upper corner here. And then I mentioned that I do YouTube, and he's like, great, because the best way to catalog anything that you want to potentially get a claim on is to do video. And so, lucky for me, actually having a YouTube channel and doing game room tours is the best way to document and catalog exactly what you have. Because he had a really good point. People can fudge or make up a spreadsheet. Now, hopefully people don't do that, but it's very difficult to fake a video, and especially when it's in the space that is already covered by your policy. So he was very happy to hear that, and I was very happy to hear that too, because game room tours are fun, and there's the proof. So just want to mention that as a nice little tip. I hope you found this video informative and interesting. I get asked this all the time because people are so curious about it. And like I mentioned, there's not one real solution to this. It's going to depend on where you live and what company you use. So if you have a solution, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. Great question. Thank you. This question was asked by one of my Patreon contributors who helps support my YouTube channel and help shape the content of my videos. In addition to asking questions like this, they also get access to a private chat, an audio podcast, and early access to most of my Friday videos. You can also set the amount you want to contribute, and you can leave or change it at any time. If you'd like to help support my videos and become part of the Metal Militia, please go to patreon.com/MetalJesusRocks.